talked about the basis of molecular biology, let's talk about water. And water to us just seems like something super simple, but actually the properties of water are extremely important in molecular biology and in biology as a whole. So a water molecule is formed by covalent bonds between an oxygen atom and two hydrogen atoms. That's where it gets H2O, because it involves the unequal sharing of electrons, which are polar covalent bonds. Because the nucleus of the oxygen atom is bigger than the nucleus of the hydrogen atom because it has more protons, so it has a stronger electromagnetic force. Because there are 16 protons in an oxygen atom compared to only 1 in a hydrogen atom. So the protons in the oxygen atom are way stronger, so they pull the electrons closer to the oxygen atom and farther away from the hydrogen atom, which gives a partially polar charge to the water molecule. So around the hydrogens, there'll be more of a positive charge because their electrons are more towards the oxygen, and around the oxygen atom, it'll have a partially negative charge because more of the electrons are surrounding it than around the hydrogen. So let's talk the 10 essential properties of water. The first essential property of water is its high latent heat of vaporization, which is when heat, also known as energy, is required to evaporate water molecules and turn it into a vapor. So considerable amounts of heat are required to evaporate water, which takes the thermal energy away from it and makes it cooler. That's what makes water an extremely good coolant, and that's why when we exercise or we're really hot and we start sweating, that's the body's attempt of getting the heat to take away the thermal energy that's in our bodies and actually remove heat from our bodies. The high latent heat of vaporization also keeps aquatic habitats thermally stable. So it takes a lot of energy in order to make the ocean rise in temperature, and aquatic creatures usually need a relatively stable temperature in order for them to survive. The second property is the high specific heat capacity of water. So hydrogen bonds in water restrict the motion of water molecules, and increasing the temperature in water requires hydrogen bonds to be broken. So that requires a large amount of heat to change the temperature of water. And that's what keeps internal body temperature relatively stable. Water also has hydrophilic and hydrophobic properties. Hydrophilic literally means water loving, while hydrophobic means water fearing. So all substances that can dissolve in water are hydrophilic, which is useful for cell membranes because most of the cytoplasm is water. And a major property of water that we're going to talk about is cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion is the sticking together of two water molecules. So think co means kind of together. So water has cohesive properties because of its polarity and the hydrogen bonding that forms between the oxygen atom of one water molecule and the hydrogen atom of another. And this is what causes surface tension, and along with adhesion, that's what causes surface tension, where you're able to, with a penny or a coin, you're able to put a lot of drops on water and have it be a really big bubble and not have it burst, because it's cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion is where the water molecules are sticking together, and adhesion is actually where the bonds that form between water and other polar molecules that cause them to stick together. So adhesion is where a water molecule is sticking to another substance that is not another water molecule. And this is because there's a high number of hydrogen bonds, and hydrogen bonds are actually really strong intermolecular forces. So examples of cohesion is in water transport in plants, because the molecules are not separated by suction forces. So when water is needed up in the leaves, and it gets evaporated, then more water is pulled up from the roots because the water is cohesively together. And an example of adhesion is in leaves, because also when water is evaporated, it causes water to be drawn out from the nearest xylem vessel, which keeps the cell wall moist. And capillary action uses both cohesion and adhesion to cause water to bond to a surface and to other water molecules. So that also shows water movement during transpiration. Another property of water that's really important is the low density of ice. So ice, unlike other solids of elements, it actually floats instead of sinking, which means ice caps don't sink and fish can live underwater, which is really important for aquatic habitats. Water also has great solvent properties. Water is polar, so it can form hydrogen bonds with other polar molecules because its partially negative pole is attracted to the partially positive ions, and the partially positive pole of water is attracted to negatively charged ions. The solvent properties of water are useful in blood plasma, so it can transport molecules like sodium chloride, amino acids, glucose, oxygen, and can carry fat molecules and cholesterol in carriers. And also another property of water is its solvent properties in metabolic reactions. So metabolic reactions happen most readily in solutions of water because the cytoplasm is made mostly of water. So diffusion happens faster when water is around it. Another essential property of water is surface tension. It allows things to float on the surface of water, which is also the property of cohesion. And also a big thing that we'll talk about in the next section is hydrolysis and condensation reactions, which makes it possible for polymers to be made from monomers, and hydrolysis makes it possible for polymers to be broken down into monomers. And finally, water is a good conductor of electricity.